What would you say you do here?
It's the Signal Chords, home of the Underground podcast. A podcast dedicated to up-and-coming bands, labels, artists, and more. Plug in and join your host, Brad Nunnery, as he dives deep into what the future of music has to hold and discover something new along the way. What else do you have to do?
Hey, this is Rod from Just a Ride.
Hi there, it's Drew from Just a Ride.
Hey, I'm Alex from Just a Ride.
Hi, it's John from Just a Ride.
You're listening to Signal Chords.
Home of the Underground.
Home of the Underground. Home of the Underground podcast.
Last Man Standing from our good friends in Just a Ride. It's off their Waiting EP that they just dropped earlier this year. Really killer stuff. Thank you so much to Rod, Drew, Alex, and John for recording that promo for us. Really do appreciate it, guys. If you want to find out more about that band, hit them up on social media at Just a Ride Band. All right, good stuff there. What's up, everybody? My name is Brad Nunnery. Welcome to Signal Chords, Home of the Underground podcast, episode 8. Set to join us today is a band called FEEDTHERIGHTWOLF. They're based out of Virginia and Jacksonville. They're an alternative rock / grunge band. Really killer stuff from these guys. They just dropped a brand new debut EP. A lot of really killer tracks on this EP. I'm going to tell you that right now. We're going to talk to those guys all about those. And this song in particular, their first single, it's called Spin Cycle, and it's on Signal Chords, Home of the Underground podcast.
Will you listen if I sing a song?
What's up, guys? Thank you so much for joining the podcast. Really do appreciate it. How you guys doing today?
Good. Glad to be here. Thanks for having us.
Thanks for joining. Now, it's been a few weeks that you and I have been talking with each other, and your debut, a self-titled debut, is out now. It's a brand new EP, and we helped you promote Spin Cycle. Really killer stuff. I love what I'm hearing. I pretty much love every song, and we're going to get into some of these songs here in a little bit, but I kind of want to start at the beginning because I know Josh here in Jacksonville, and Matt, Rob, and Zach, you guys are in Virginia. How did you guys all come together and do this project together?
Well, I don't know. I'm just looking at your shirt right now, and I feel like it's a good place to start. Right.
Yeah.
So Josh and I have been playing in bands since we were 13, but reality is Josh, myself, and Rob were all in a band called Head to Wall, based off a Quicksand song. And we moved to California when we were 21. And that kind of became all sorts of different things where, Rob ended up leaving, going back to, kind of start a family, do that. And me and Josh kept playing. But yeah, here we are just basically 12 years later. We're all just great friends, just writing music, wanting to do music because we just absolutely love doing it and can't think of anyone else, we'd rather be doing it with, than each other, so. And not to.
Yeah, no, that's.
Well, I was kind of late. I was a little late to the game because, they'd known each other for years. I met Matt. We started a band. We met, I think, on Craigslist, probably 7 or 8 years ago. Started a band. And then once that band kind of dissolved, I just kind of laid low for a little while. And then he hit me up about starting a recording project. And then once we started playing together, I kind of knew it was going to be a little more than a recording project because me and him just hit it off really well as far as our guitar styles. So,
yeah.
No, that's awesome. Now, how did you? What was kind of like the goal when you guys all got together? Now with Josh, kind of being, is it just like an email kind of thing? Hey, let's put something together. I'll send you some some bass tracks. I'll send you the drums, kind of a deal. I'll work on songs. How does it all work when you guys are in different states and putting things together?
The very beginning, it was just more or less Matt and I last summer. He had a couple song ideas. He just came to visit me, and we jammed on them. Thought they sounded good. As those evolved a little bit more, Zach and Rob were listening to it, and they liked it, and they added their abilities into it. And I mean, it just really kind of completed a sound and went from there. But what you're saying about the long distance, I mean, we do have an app that I think, Rob, you're the one who discovered it, right? The BandLab app.
BandLab.
I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah,
it's like you just get a little interface for your phone, and you can even use your phone's microphone, and it sounds pretty good.
Really?
Metronomes in there. It's like a little studio that you can use, and everyone can record on their own time. So it's really nice.
It's not like rinky dink too, because I mean I've been recording music on my own for like 15 years. Just like bought all this nice equipment and blah blah blah, and it's like their tracks are turning in like almost as good as mine, just like hooked up to a phone and an interface. Like it's just crazy how far technology has come. So it's kind of seamless, and in some ways it kind of works better because if we're just obviously there's something to be said about being in a space jamming, and we do like doing that, but like you're not as it's harder to focus. There's too much noise. You start tuning, and then the drummer's playing yada yada. So it's like you got some time to focus. So it's like it's a good way to write.
Yeah, technology has come so far. I mean, that's one of those things to where when podcasting, right? That's one of the reasons why I didn't really get into podcasting for a while, just because we didn't have all the bells and whistles that we do now. And I'm an idiot, right? I'm a self-proclaimed idiot. I have a very short attention span. Anything technical, I really struggle with as far as putting things together, and even just putting this podcast together, I struggle with. But a lot of these, everything that I pretty much do is through a cell phone. So everything that you see on Signal Chords, I do it through a cell phone. I do this podcast, I use this platform, StreamYard, to record you and I talking, but everything else is done by a cell phone because either A, I don't have time, or B, I'm really super lazy to learn, Premiere Pro or any of those kind of, audio editing, software kind of programs. But, if you find something that works for you, that's awesome. Let technology work for you, right? So kudos for you guys doing that.
Yeah, we do meet up. Like we have met up like 4 or 5 times, like recording, jamming, doing the show. So it's like doing the video. We're not like only doing this remotely, but.
Well, that's case in point is Rob being here today because he's up in Jersey. So he came down just to kind of jam and do the podcast, just so it was one less screen we had to put up for that.
Yeah. Yeah, it gets a little tricky when there's 20 different screens.
Pretty much thing going on.
So obviously you were having a kind of conversation about Quicksand and some influences, as far as that you guys are into. So let's talk about some of the influences that you guys have individually as a whole, and how that relates to this new EP that you guys got out.
Yeah, it's I think a good place to start. We're all big Thrice fans, but I feel like me, Zach, and Josh are like really influenced, quite a bit, by Thrice, So that's definitely a big influence. I think maybe you could hear it in some of our music, but we all have a love for like Deftones, and then really big love for like some of the newer 90s bands like Balance and Composure, Super Heaven, kind of those 90s kind of feel.
Shoegaze, all that stuff, yeah.
Like that. Sometimes shoegaze, shoegazy, but we're all really kind of into that new kind of modern, I don't want to say modern, but that kind of 90s post-hardcore influence sound, I would say, so, but that's just,
so definitely.
So Little Birdie tells me that Matt hates Alice in Chains. Matt, can you verify that? Let's talk about that.
Least favorite. That's my least favorite grunge band. Like I personally love Pearl Jam. That's my absolute favorite like 90s band. I don't want to say I hate Alice in Chains. Just like out of the big 4, they're probably my least favorite. You know what I mean? So
I think the main
was he the Birdie or what?
No, that was me. No, because that was the main like. The first song that kind of came to me, like when they were trying to get me involved with the project, was the Raining Glass. And like I was just like hearing it, and it was probably more so the stuff that I was playing because I'm huge Alice in Chains. It's one of my favorite bands. And I was just like hearing, I was like, you know what, Matt? For someone that hates Alice in Chains, you wrote the hell out of an Alice in Chains song. Yeah. I hate Pearl Jam. It's like I can't relate to that, and he can't relate to that. It's just funny because we're on like for the most part, we're on pretty much one common thread with everything, but I can't stand Pearl Jam and he doesn't like Alice in Chains. So
That's funny. That's funny. Usually those kind of go hand in hand, but Alice in Chains, Wood is probably it's not my favorite band of all time, but they are probably one of my favorite like grunge bands from that era. But Alice in Chains, Wood, I mean, that's a perfect song from start to finish. And, Faith No More is one of my favorite bands of all time. That's my pinnacle band of all time. But, as far as songwriting and everything that I look for in a song, that Alice in Chains, Wood, I mean, you can't go wrong. I mean, it's hard to not like that song. But yeah, I get it. There's some bands that I really don't like. STP was either hit or miss with me, growing up. Like, they were really, the first record was awesome, and then everything else just went downhill for me. It was just one of those things where like it was almost like glam grunge, and I don't really like that Velvet Revolver, all that kind of stuff. So I have my own like strong opinions about all that kind of stuff. But I had to ask you that, Matt. So sorry.
Yeah, STP,
put you on the spot there.
Like, it's funny. It's like I never got into them until I started kind of jamming them. Like I was playing in a cover band in Phoenix a little bit. And we were jamming STP songs, and it was really like the rhythm section that kind of like playing it like live with the band, like really just dialing in the pocket. The rhythms are just really tight and dialed in. I started to like them more. It's one of those bands that kind of grew on me like that way. It's weird. So.
Yeah. So speaking of, let's talk about this. So you guys did a cover of Bush's "Everything Zen." I really love this version of it, and I think Josh has that gritty. You have that gritty. What should I say? Gavin Rosdale kind of like throaty kind of vocals, and I love it. And listening to this version of it, I really love it, and really made me want to listen to the actual song again. But let's talk about why you guys chose to cover Bush's "Everything Zen."
I think it was just mainly because early on we let some friends, family hear some of the tracks before they were released anywhere, and people kept coming back saying that they reminded them of Bush, the vocals and things, which I don't really hear that all that much, but that's why it's like out of all the songs we recorded, the "Everything Zen" song is the song that every time I hear it, I immediately, musically, I think it sounds a lot like the original, but vocally, I immediately hear myself and I kind of just almost cringe in a way, like, because I'm just so accustomed to hearing the original version, but it's
right.
But the other original songs I can listen to no problem, but just hearing yourself singing such an idealistic, song that you loved growing up, I mean, it's just, I don't know, it just doesn't sound the same to me, I guess.
Trust you once my way.
So I'm asking this of a lot of bands because I know when I look back and I do editing for this podcast, and I hate myself on video, so, truth be told, and I don't like doing video at all. So I always wonder with singers, Josh, as far as like listening back and constantly having to hear your voice and constantly saying, oh, I could have did this better or did that better. I mean, even instruments, even the bass or even the guitars or any of that kind of stuff. When you're constantly, critiquing yourself, how difficult is it for you to kind of just sit back and just, say, accept the fact, hey, I did a great job here? Or is it something that you struggle with, any one of you guys struggle with, when you hear your own songs, and do you ever get tired of it?
I've always struggled with that myself, especially in the previous bands I've been in over the years where we did it a little differently. Where you meet up on a certain night a week, you practice in a loud room. You think you've got your part nailed, but then you spend months on it. You finally go into the studio, you pay money to record, and you're like, oh my God, I should have done this here, that there. I overplayed this part or whatever. That's the beauty of using this app is everyone gets in, hears their mistakes. One of the complaints about using the app is when I create vocal melodies and sometimes words at first, these guys have to hear the early forms of it, so it's like,
right.
And they, that it never comes out like just great instantly. I mean, that's pretty rare for me anyway. So they have to ride along with me as I figure it out, so.
Yeah. Now, how about you guys, Matt, Rob, Zach, do you guys ever after listening to, you know, some of your stuff, or especially with the EP now being out, do you listen to your own EP and say, man, I should have did that, I should have did that, or you just move on and say, accept that, you know, you really enjoy it and want to do it? I mean, everything's great. It's not a, you know, it's not a deal. But I know as artists, you know, everybody struggles with how they're playing or how they think it sounds. You know what I mean?
It's so easy to drive yourself crazy, right? Like so to answer your question, yes, I definitely do all the times. Like, man, why didn't I play it this way or that way? But the other thing too, as it's funny, is like I actually love this about our band. It's like we're all like different extremes, definitely, but like pretty cynical and like critical. And like as Josh was saying, it's like that's the beauty of the app too. It's just like you get all the little kinks out, right? And like I'll just like, you know, it's amazing. Like even when we get together and we'll like mess around and play live, I'll go back to my house and be like, oh, now I know how that sounds like actually playing with the rest of the crew, and I'll go into the app and tweak it, you know? So it's like, it's always there, but I just feel like the way that we write and the way that our songs come together, it like, at least for me, it like tempers it slightly. And then we're in the studio, we're all super critical anyway. So it's just like, you know, it gets to a point where we're like, okay, that's like the 98% version.
Yeah.
It's never 100%. But,
Yeah,
so let's talk about what's that. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say for me, I absolutely hate recording. It's like the part of the whole. Like I love writing and playing shows. I despise recording, so I just kind of surrender to the process. And like I'm like, okay, I'm done recording, dude. I'm stoked. Like,
you're like always.
Yeah, that was gonna be one of my questions. Like, do you guys like enjoy the process of recording and putting everything down, or you just rather just get it over with, get it out there, kind of a deal? I know that some people are different. Some people are tech mind oriented. Some people are, you know, are just like, just let me know what I need to do. Let me know when I need to plug in. Let me know when I need to do this. And they just, you know, you guys play your parts and just walk away. So where do you guys kind of like stand on the recording process as far as your thoughts? You were just saying that you didn't enjoy it, but what about all you other guys?
Zach is incredibly dialed into detail with recording. Like he's pretty, like him and Josh, like I would say are the two like biggest proponents of like really honing in on that, you know. So I feel like they do a really good job of kind of creating that structure to where for me it makes it really easy for me. Like I don't know, I'd rather be doing like marketing and like writing and playing live, you know. So, but I definitely want to make sure my parts are good, you know.
What's that, Josh?
Preparation is key. I was gonna say for recording, preparation is like, I mean, if you don't prepare, you don't feel comfortable, you go in there, you get nervous, you waste money and time, all that stuff.
Sure.
But once you've beaten the songs to death, you know, already like a bunch of times before, you kind of go in there, especially when you're playing with a metronome all the time and you get so familiar with that, it kind of just creates that little map for you to follow. And then it's, you know, I think if you prepare enough, then it's easy and it's not as stressful. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. So where did you guys record this EP at? Or did you just do it all kind of like from your homes, or did you actually get together and go in the studio? And did you have anybody help produce the record, or was it all DIY?
So we recorded here in Jacksonville at my Platinum Sound studio with a guy named Paul Lapinski. He's actually worked with, you know, some of the bigger bands out of Jacksonville, like Evergreen Terrace and Yellowcard.
Love that band.
And oh yeah, Red Jumpsuit Apparatus. Those guys are from here.
Yep, just saw those guys. They played their birthday here back in April. I saw Red Jumpsuit. But yeah, I love Evergreen Terrace and Yellowcard as well. So that's awesome. You got him to help you out on it.
Yeah, it's funny how we found him too. I had found a guy that lives in my neighborhood, booked some time, and then he canceled on me kind of last minute. So I was scrambling to find another studio, happened to call and get Paul on the phone, you know, just found his website and everything. And when I talked to him, he promised us that it would be the best sounding record we ever did, you know, otherwise you just don't pay pretty much. We were like, well,
right,
we'll take that bargain, you know, whatever, that deal or whatever.
Yeah.
But as far as production, we pretty much just did it all ourselves. There's, you know, between the four of us and our musical ears from playing, you know, in bands for so long, it's somebody will find something and suggest something if, you know, something needs polished.
Yeah. And how long did it take from pretty much start to finish saying, okay, let's do this EP, you know, from start to finish? How long was that process? Was it over a year? Was it over 6 months? Or how long did it take you guys to get all the songs together and get everything, you know, hammered out?
So I think the band probably started moving forward, you know, the most probably around last November, something like that. End of October, we got together and jammed on some of the songs. And so after that, we, put together 4 songs. We originally recorded 4 for the EP. Then we went back in even just 3 weeks later, I think, maybe a month later, and did 2 more and the cover song. So it's 6 months, something like that, probably.
That's awesome. I mean, it sounds great. I mean, it doesn't, that you hear about bands working on records for, years and years, or, over a year kind of a deal. It's like, like we hinted on earlier about technology, it doesn't take that long to be able to get things together when you have everything, kind of put together. So that's awesome. Let's talk about, all right. So I want to talk about some of the songs on the EP, if you guys don't mind. And I guess we'll start off with the first song, the first single, Spin Cycle. You guys have a music video out for it that we helped you promote. Really killer music video, really killer song. Been listening to it pretty much all day today because I really wanted to kind of do some research. So I love the lyrics. Do you remember when we were younger, we had no cares at all? Do you remember? Let me see. What is the, yeah. I still remember when we had the hunger that rised with the fire. I mean, that's been stuck on me for pretty much since since I first heard of you guys. I love this song. Is there a cool story about the lyrics? And what are the lyrics really necessarily about? Because I love the second part of the second verse of this song. Let's talk about that and how the video all came together. If you guys can elaborate on that and why you chose this song to be your first single.
Well, originally we actually had, I told you before, we recorded 4 songs originally, and one of those songs was Alpha Uprising. So that before we did Spin Cycle, Alpha Uprising was going to be the video song. It was going to be the single. And then Spin kind of came together and everybody was like, just switched gears kind of maybe a few weeks before the video was to be filmed and went to that song. Lyrically for me, I mean, kind of before I also said how when I share ideas with the guys, they have to hear these early forms of, vocal melodies or lyrics. Sometimes it's great, sometimes it's terrible, Anyway, I saw this one, I kind of held it back from them for a little while. Once I started listening to it, formulating a melody, I created the chorus part like almost instantly and kept hearing those lyrics in my head. But I didn't turn it over to them because I wasn't sure that it was, I wasn't sure if it was like too cliche or too cheesy, if you will, in some ways, It's like, sure. But I could never get that out of my head. I could never transition to a new part for that song. So that was the original lyric in the song. But then later on, the song does connect to me and like a certain family member of mine who we just kind of, I wish we were closer all the time. I kind of lived, far away from her. She's my little sister, for her my whole life. I mean, I wasn't there for her growing up. I just see her every few years, and I want to be close with her. And she's just a teenager, so basically we just had one little quarrel kind of thing that was just needed to be talked about. And the song really means a lot. The lyrics kind of translate almost literally to that incident for me, but obviously they can also mean a lot to anyone else and interpret their own way. So. Do you remember when we were younger and had no cares at all? I still remember when we had a hunger and our eyes lit with the fire. Right, it is very simple, and but it's one of those choruses that it's stuck in my brain. Every once in a while, I'll sing it, and everybody wants, everybody, I guess, thinks about getting older and growing and all that kind of stuff, and it's all a part of life, and it sticks with me, and I love that you guys put it out as your first single. I love all the songs, and we're going to talk about Alpha Uprising and Raining Glass as well. As far as the music video, who helped you out on it, and how'd that all come about, and what was kind of like the theme you wanted to project onto this video?
Yeah, Josh, we should probably tell the second part of the story together about like the mural down in Work Art District. Yeah. But just when we first started, it was like, how are we going to do this? How are we going to sequence all this? Like, what do we want to, how do we want to market the EP? we all agreed we should do some version of a video. And, I think to some extent, all of us have kind of worked with people or know people, who've done some pretty fantastic work over the years. But I don't know, man. I think I was just like sitting around one night and I was like, what are bands that I like that aren't super huge, that aren't going to use like, someone who's going to charge us a fortune. And I stumbled upon this guy, Bobby Dates, who's done a whole bunch of really cool videos. I'm a huge fan of the band 68. Josh, who used to be the singer of the Chariot and Norma Jean way back in the day. He also did this band called Vexes, who's from up my way, like Jersey, Philly. So anyway, long story short, I reached out to him and him and a number of other people, but I don't know if he was the first one to get back, but he was just like normal, you know what I mean? Just like really down to earth, just a cool cat. And obviously we started talking about just like how he works and, sent him the song and he was really into it. And like Josh said, like we're going to do Alpha initially, and we probably will do Alpha at some point because we all love that song too. But, when we flipped and Spin Cycle, like the early, sort of like in production version of it, it resonated with him like some of the same ways that you're describing, right? He was just like, I don't know what it is about the words, the way it's everything. You just like, it just hits me like in a cathartic almost way. So anyway, the cool part in all of this is when we were down there in Jacksonville recording the second 3 songs, Josh and I popped out to get some food or whatever, and there was this mural the Cork Art District of what you see on the cover now. It's this woman with like headphones on, and it kind of ties to like the story and the relationship Josh has with his sister as well. But after we got done, I took a picture of it, just not even thinking about it. And then a week or so later, I was talking to Bobby about the video treatment. And he was like, I picture this woman putting on headphones to start off the video, and I was like, you're kidding me, dude. Like, it's all kind of coming full circle. So it was just like one of those cool, like, what is like, say, serendipitous types of things that just like was like, oh man, this is there's like magic happening here, So it's kind of cool how that all came together. And then of course, like we got in touch with the guy who actually did the mural, this guy Oscar, and he actually shared a picture recently of what it looked like when it was first done. It looks completely different, like the sun and weather, I guess, like took all the color out of it. But anyway, we all thought it was a cool shot and used it for the cover.
No, it's awesome. And so in music videos, you were saying that you probably do a few more, and that was going to be one of my questions, if you were going to do any more music videos for the EP or, but in this day and age, as far as, with MTV not being there and all that kind of stuff to be able to support it, how, I'm an 80s kid, I'm a 90s kid, I know you guys are too. So it's one of those things where we grew up on music videos, and it's one thing that we loved. And when I wanted to start Signal Chords, I didn't want to just post like album art and like music, right? I'm an audio, video, visual guy. I miss those days, and Signal Chords is kind of a tribute to that old music video, the 120 minutes, the Headbangers Ball, all those kind of stuff. Like that's kind of like what Signal Chords is. I want to be able to kind of relive that, I guess, memory. But with today, with not having those outlets, how much of a priority is it to make a music video and put it out there? Because I know it takes a lot of funding to make those videos. And is it worth the expense of maybe just getting 600 views or whatnot? Or how do you think it helps you, and how, if at all, if it hinders you at all in making it, or does it make you not want to do them because of the cost and the fact that maybe not as many people will see them? What are your thoughts about music videos and how a band is trying to get their name out there? This, I guess, is my long-winded question into a short.
We're kind of like a really probably unique band in the fact that since we are so far apart that, we need to do the majority of this online. And I guess the funny thing is about us is we're doing a lot of digital marketing. I run a digital marketing company, so with a lot of like YouTube and Facebook and Instagram ads. So like Rob's doing a lot of like Instagram ads for us while I'm doing a lot of YouTube stuff. So that's the thing. If we're going to commit to actually like recording an actual music video, we're going to make sure that it is getting seen, so we're, essentially making sure that it does get seen and, visible in some format, driving traffic that way,
I'd say it's also, we're we're talking about like, you know, like shows and dates and stuff for this fall and thinking into next year, which is like obviously something we all are excited about doing and want to do. But in the absence of like us being able to like on a Friday be like, hey, let's play whatever dive bar, and just, you know, like it gets us out there visually for people. And I think the big thing, I don't know about you guys, like the big thing for me is just like having, you know, like having like the actual performance footage was really important. Like I love the thematic aspects of the video, don't get me wrong, but like in the absence of us like doing a tour, playing a show right out of the gates, like it was a way for people to kind of see us and just, you know, connect with us visually.
Yeah, absolutely. So, all right. So we talked a little bit about Alpha Uprising. So let's get into this song. You said it was going to be originally your first single. What about this song that really hits home for you guys as far as you know, wanting it to originally be the first single, and what do you love about the song, and what can listeners expect when they're listening to this song? And now I heard that they're, and speaking of which, I know I ask a lot of questions and I sandwich them, but Rob said that I was talking to Rob earlier via chat, and he said there were some fun interruptions when trying to record the wah pedal in the chorus. So if you guys want to talk about that, you can. I'd love to hear your thoughts on Alpha Uprising.
Zach, take it away, man.
Well, I mean, as far as just the wah, to jump straight into that little tidbit. So wah pedals, just by the nature of them, just are sweeping through frequencies and just like filtering the sound depending on where you're rocking the pedal. And there's this one little spot somewhere in the middle of it to where it was picking up a radio station when we were recording it. Couldn't hear it too well, but it's very like Christian gospel-y kind of. It would just be funny, like I'd be like tracking my guitar solo parts or whatever parts in the chorus that had the wah, and then I would just take my foot off and rest and everything, and we'd be like, "What's that sound? What's that sound?" And just like we couldn't hear it, and then I start messing with the wah, and you keep dialing this one radio station, but. So I don't know if there's going to be like any royalties we need to pay anyone, because like somewhere buried in all my
algorithm is going to pick it up. Yeah,
there's someone else's content buried somewhere.
There's a devil on my shoulder who speaks in my ear. And when I
love that song. Let's talk about Raining Glass. Now, what I love about this song, when I listened to it originally, I heard that the guitar parts out. Now I don't know if it's but it's very Tom Morello-ish. The wing, wing. Like I love that part of the you know, those parts in that song. So this was you said this was one of the first songs to get the project off the ground, Rob. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about you know, how this song kind of came together and how this got everything started and kicked off.
You wrote it, right, Matt?
Yeah, this was actually the first song that me and Josh jammed on before the guys came. It was just kind of I had pretty much written, I guess, almost pretty much every part, and just essentially went over to Josh's. In Jacksonville, we started jamming on it, and it was just kind of the first one. It had already been pretty much an entire song in my head, and Josh just like slayed this vocal melody and showed it to the guys, and it just stuck in my head for like months. And it was kind of the first song that I guess kind of just came together, you know, really quickly between me and Josh, and was the thing that started it, you know.
Let's break this hourglass.
I love those. Like I said, I love those, like those little parts. Those little who's playing that? Who's doing that?
All the crazy any weird sound is coming from Zach.
So I guess to kind of like elaborate that. So like when Matt first came to me and was like showing me the stuff, like I'm like we work really well together guitar wise. Like if we're both playing in like a rock band, like we kind of both like neither of us are like a rhythm or lead guy. We both just kind of just like meet in the middle somewhere usually. But with this, it's just like he showed me all these songs. It's like for most of the songs on the EP, I'm just like, dude, I don't even know if this needs a second guitar. I'm just like, I don't want to be a band where we're playing the same exact thing. So I was just like, I had to really get creative with it. And I'm like, I'm a kind of like a textures guy anyway. Like I don't need to impress anyone with my playing. I just want to like add like something. So honestly, for like a lot of the stuff that we write, I don't record my parts until after most of the vocals are done too, because I want to kind of support the vocals. So I think of it as like it's the band of these four, and then once the vocals are kind of established, I kind of like play off of it and complement it to support the vocals. So whenever there's something weird, it's because I couldn't come up with an actual part, and I was like, well, let me just stop.
Right.
But there really is this part in there, like the second verse, I think is where it stands out the most. Is this little like, I describe it as like this Oriental kind of a sounding, like this raking that he's doing. He's like raking the strings or something. It sounds, that's what I kind of got from it. I love it. It sounds like it just kind of brings in so much texture to it. That's really cool.
Yeah, that's I love it when bands do that. Yeah, putting the texture in there and those little intricacies that I really noticed and that I really loved on that song. So there's a whole bunch of, there's a few other songs on there that I love. The Collapse, the intro song is really cool. I love it. I love it when bands do this, when they put some audio samples in at the beginning of records. I used to love it when bands did that. A lot of punk bands, a lot of 90s punk bands would do that.
Metalcore thing to do too.
Yeah.
Like in the local scene around here, like all these metalcore bands, like when I was starting playing guitar, like 2002, 2003, if you didn't have like some old movie quote in there, you weren't a real band. Like,
yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And I'm curious, what is that from? What's that audio drop from?
I was wondering if you were going to notice it or recognize it or not, but it's from Idiocracy. I think it's 2004, 2005-ish. Luke Wilson, Terry Crews.
Yeah.
It's Terry Crews who's actually doing it. He's President Camacho in that movie.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
No, I love it. I love it when I first heard it, I'm like, oh hell yeah, I know this is gonna be awesome, because like some of my favorite records like have that audio drop in at the beginning. Good Riddance used to do a lot of that. So many other really killer bands that I love. So that's what really got my attention at the beginning of that record. Obviously a really great song. So in that song, speaking of which, I was listening to yesterday on the way to the liquor store. So just for reference, then I was listening to it, and this is the only way, Josh.
That's the only way.
Now, in front of us all, that lyric, and you keep on saying it and over and over and over again. How, as a singer, I know how I would be like with my short attention span. Like you say it multiple times. How do you keep track of how many times you say it? I mean, it's awesome and it's perfect for the song. But like, do you have to count on your fingers to know, hey, I need to stop? Kind of deal. It's just a kind of a funny question, because I've always learned that when singers do that, when you say it 4 or 5 times, that it's like, okay, that's a bar. But like when they're doing it over and over again, how do you keep track? It's probably a really stupid question, so you can answer it as any way you want. But that's always been a question of mine.
The ending to that song was actually kind of created to fade out and potentially be the final track on the EP. But then with the sample, wanting that to kind of push it forward. And I mean, I still kind of thought it should have been the last track on the CD, because the way it ends like that. But ultimately, it does work out still pretty well, and being the first track. But having a long fade out on your first track, I think it's a little different. But as far as counting it, I don't think that it's something that I really count. It's more of a feeling. Maybe it's some sort of internal count, because I've been playing drums my whole life too. So I'm already got the I'm kind of locked in on the meter for that anyway. But it's like throughout that part where there are little variations, but the in front of us all does repeat the most for sure. I mean, there are parts where it kind of breaks down a little bit harder, and kind of key things that happen musically that kind of transition it to the final resting place, I guess, of the song.
Yeah, no, it drives home the point, and I love that part of the song, and it's just a random that I thought that I have on the road. I'm like, man, how does he keep track? Because there are those different variations, right? There's the fade out where you keep on doing it, and that's great. You could just fade it out and just keep on singing it, and you just fade it down. But like, there's that part in that song where it's like maybe 6 or 7 times that you say it. I'm like, how do you you know, when you're performing it live, when you perform, you know, performing it live, eventually you're going to be like, okay, how do I, you saying it's a feeling, but like with me, it's, maybe it would be different if I was actually singing it, but it's a really stupid question. Sorry, I asked.
I mean, but for the in front of us all, there actually, now I'm thinking about it more, there is like a little trigger in there, which kind of helps you reset to the next part. And it's kind of, it's just in front of us all, but then on the final in front of us all, it like really pours more emotion into it. And it's like, you know, and it's like in front of us all, you know, held out more and kind of, so that kind of right there kind of tells you that's the end of that kind of, and to either stop or go or keep going. I don't know, but yeah, it's all just kind of a feel.
That's awesome. And I love Quicksand, obviously. No, but your song Quicksand, I think the lyrics are really heavy. And what's lyrically, as far as I think I was listening to it, I'm like, wow, those are pretty profound lyrics. Let's talk about them and kind of what that song is about a little bit.
So actually, so a lot of times when I go into the songwriting, I don't really try to write about anything, but out of the 6 songs, I mean, Quicksand was the one that was more influenced by, you know, something going on in like around my personal life or one of my, you know, friends' personal life. So that's kind of the whole formation of that song. I mean, even some of the words in there were things that I've heard this person say and, you know, before and stuff. So it definitely is, it's related to, you know, specific events, obviously, but I think a lot of people can kind of understand it as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And so you end everything with Trust Anchor. The breakdown halfway through, I really, really love. I really enjoy. What kind of solidified your thoughts as far as, okay, this is going to be our last song? Because I know you were kind of debating on whether or not which song was going to be on the last on it, kind of a deal. And how important is that, you know, as far as how tracks line up, but and why you chose Trust Anchor to be that, you know, actually anchor of the EP.
Zach kind of, Zach, take this.
We all kind of like, because there's like theoretical reasons, like not music theory, but there's just like, oh, this song like sets a tone. Like you can think of it that way, but for me, like it's more about like tonally how things go into. If you're gonna think of it as an experience where you're listening to the whole thing front to back, like what song, like if it's just ringing out into another one, like is it too jagged if the next one comes in, or is that exactly what it needs or something? I just feel like everything kind of worked like that. I also feel like with Trust Anchor, when it we were talking about that being the last one, that's how I was like, well, I feel like we should do something to really establish that it's the end. So I added that little like tape effect slow down thing. Mm-hmm. But I mean, it's really just all about, like, I took all the songs, put them on the playlist, and we all were kind of doing the same thing. We just shuffle around the order, and it's just a matter of how they just kind of flow into it. It's not so much like we didn't write a concept album, so we weren't approaching it from that way. It's just a matter of how do the songs flow, and it almost like works like a performance too, because you wouldn't want to open with a song like Quicksand. You wouldn't want to close with it because it's very slow and moody. You want something like a little higher energy. So I feel like the way we landed on was probably about the best arrangement we could come up with.
Yeah, that's a good way of thinking of it. And so there, so you said that did you confirm that there will be more music videos coming along the way, or no, from this EP?
If all goes well, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And is there any songs that you recorded that you didn't put on the EP that are probably coming out later on that you can release as singles, or is a full length coming around the corner? I know it's a little bit early. You just dropped the EP, but are you guys already in discussions to say, okay, we got this out there, let's start working on some new stuff, let's get things going? Or are you guys kind of concentrating as far as getting together as a band and going out and performing these songs? What's kind of priority for the band right now?
Kind of both. Yeah, we're always writing, and I think what we probably are envisioning is kind of dropping singles just kind of along the way, you know, probably not doing a full LP, you know, but we're working. We have like 2 songs specifically that we're working pretty hard on. Actually 3 songs right now that we're working on solidifying, and we're definitely still working on shows. So yeah, I think we're approaching both. You know, I think it's important to hit, you know, new material and, you know, shows, and looking for opportunities to get out there as much as possible. So yeah, got to both sides things.
Yeah, well, that sounds great. But well, that's great to hear. So if people want to find you right now, as far as find out a little bit more about Feed the Right Wolf, where can they do that? Is there a website, or they just primarily reach out to you via social media at Feed the Right Wolf?
Yeah, we do. We technically do have a website. We haven't. We're still. It is technically alive. It's www.feedtherightwolfband.com. It is active, and we're just still kind of working on it. So you can definitely go there. We'll probably be a lot more vocal about putting that out there within like the next month or so. But yeah, mostly just Instagram, Feed the Right Wolf Band. Same thing for YouTube at Feed the Right Wolf Band. Those are probably the two most active profiles we have. And then we also have, if you ever feel like emailing us, contact at feedtherightwolfband.com too. So those are kind of all the outlets there.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for joining the podcast. I really do appreciate it. Best of luck to you. Best of luck on the new record. I really enjoy it. Thank you so much for taking the time and speaking with me today. Hopefully you guys have a great rest of your Sunday. We'll talk to you guys soon.
Awesome. Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us, man.